Hi, my name's James. I play in a band from the UK called Rolo Tomassi.
My name's Matt. I play in a band called Cryptodira from New York.
Our bands are on tour together at the moment across the east coast of the US, and today we're going to show you inside our van.
So the driving is done pretty much entirely by Cryptodira because we're, from here, and we're happy to do it. But as far as shifts, it's mostly whoever's up for it. Luckily, it's only an East Coast tour, so most of the drives have been pretty reasonable. So there's no 7-hour shifts that we have to actually come up with a schedule to make sure things are safe. But we always make sure that 2 people are up here. Always have 1 person awake, 1 person driving. Doesn't matter what time, just to make sure we have that extra security. For the most part, it'll be either me and Scott from Cryptodira, and we'll be up here listening to something like Linkin Park or Circa Survive, or we have our go-to records that the 2 of us will just belt. Or else it'll be Mike and Jeremy from Cryptodira, who are probably listening to some sort of movie podcast.
Or Pat Metheny. It's kind of been the go-to so far. There's a lot of sort of virtuoso guitarists that I hear in my seat from just behind the front passenger seat.
It's Galaxy Brain guitar music.
The most important thing we have plugged in to the front is this inverter for power. This has been pretty crucial just in terms of keeping people's phones powered, just that kind of thing generally. But the most important thing for most of our band, Rolo Tomassi, is we have this router plugged in. One of the recent pastimes that our band has succumbed to is playing Command and Conquer Red Alert. We have this router set up so they can do a wireless LAN party and play the game. We've managed to convince members of Cryptodira to join in, and for hours on end people will sit silently on their laptop playing military strategy games.
It is actually very peaceful that way too. Otherwise it's just everyone screaming, and half the times half of us are drunk too, so having something to just pacify people has been very good.
So between the 2 bands we have 10 passengers. We've for the most part been able to sit 2 to a row, so we have 2 in the front. Me and our vocalist Eva will sit here. That on any tour that we do is her seat. There's not really any hard and fast rules about where anyone sits, but Eva always sits behind the driver. The rest of us, I feel like people in the back kind of move around, but I've taken this space as well.
The rotation is, so there's always 2 members of Cryptodira up front driving. The other 2 members will be here. And then the rest of Rolo Tomassi and our merch person will usually change every once in a while.
I think so. And you would think for the most part that 2 to a row would be relatively spacious. I think we hideously underestimated how full the trailer was going to be. So a lot of the time, and I mean you won't see this now because our suitcases are in the venue, we have 3 suitcases that will sit on this seat between us. There's been boxes of merch. Very fortunately, as we're a week in, we've managed to sell some of that, so we have been able to lose some of the boxes, which is freeing up more space, and maybe by the time we get to New York we'll all just have somewhere to relax.
But right in time to return the van.
Exactly, yeah. But otherwise, as you can see, we've got some half-eaten vegetable straws. There's what looks like a bike lock just there. Some more power just coming in through the back. A bag of warm Modelo, which seems to have been the beer of choice.
Yep. Modelo bag.
If you went a bit deeper, you're probably going to find some hard seltzer, maybe some empty 4 Loko cans. Our drummer has been a real 4 Loko enthusiast. We've been told by most Americans that they stopped drinking that maybe 20 years ago, but as excitable Brits, we'll kind of get our hands on whatever we can just to enjoy real American culture. So this is my seat. I think I made that clear earlier. I have been trying to read where possible. I've been doing work while we're on the road as well, tethering my phone just so I can kind of keep my boss appeased. But otherwise, I've been reading this book. It's by an English music journalist about well, there you go, there's Frank Turner's quote on it. A visceral examination of art, drugs, mental health and music. I'm about that way through. You'll see that I'm using I think that's a hotel invoice as my bookmark just there. Eva likes to sew when she's not resting. We've got some crocheting materials just here. If you come into the venue later on, you'll see that she is selling handmade pillows. She's very crafty with that kind of stuff. So I think she just has that there just for something to do when she's not resting up. So yeah, I think there's a variety of things that people do to pass the time on the journeys, other than playing Command and Conquer Red Alert.
I got my luggage. My book, unfortunately, is not with me because it's I think it's in my backpack inside. I'm reading on a Kindle though, because there's a lot of books I can simply not find in paperback form. So pirating it on the internet's actually the easiest way. You can find all sorts of PDFs and just put them right on Kindles. But would it be because we were talking about the lack of space to talk about how the very first drive we also had 2 members of Daoboys in the van with us too.
Yeah. So for the first journey, we had another couple of people riding from Long Island, and that was a 6-hour haul up to Boston, and that was. It's a good way to get to know new people quite quickly. There's nothing like being sat on each other's laps to kind of break the ice. It's the best way to kind of get involved, really. Like there's nothing like sharing a vehicle. I mean, this is the second tour we've done in the US with Cryptodira. The first time we came, we shared a similar sized vehicle with them, and we left it absolutely best friends. So it's good to know that there is positives that come from these cramped conditions. And I think we'd all happily do it again at the end of this run as well. So, we've found something and we've made it work for ourselves. All right, I mean, another thing that absolutely fuels both of our bands is energy drinks. I think it sort of started out as a bit of a joke to us. I mean, I know that Mike from Cryptodira is very serious about his Red Bull consumption. But for us, whenever we stop, I think it's more about just finding just the silliest thing you can find. We've got a can of Full Throttle just here. I think that's an energy drink. But yeah, I mean, the can artwork is just outrageous. So we got that just there. I was a bit of a hoarder. We got some pistachios just there from him.
Oh, don't tell him. But I was looking for a snack earlier when all the restaurants were closed and we were at the hotel, and I found a thing of peanuts, and I swiped that without thinking twice. He hasn't said anything though, so I don't think he's noticed. But there is always some sort of snack in that little pocket.
Yeah, there's a lot of just eating that goes on, healthy or otherwise. There's some mango slices just there, an empty pack of popcorners. Why would you not put it in the bin? Coffee as well, half drank, of course. Again, I don't know why that's been kept. Otherwise, the back, I'm not too familiar with what this because I've sat so far away from it. But we've got a yoga mat down here. Eva definitely likes to do a bit of yoga before.
Oh, that's still back there? I was looking for that.
Before she plays. I think there's been some emergency air mattresses brought just in case. But we have had the luxury of hotels every night so far. With that in mind, we've had one mishap in that we drove a couple of hours after a show to arrive at a hotel to be told that our rooms had been booked out to someone else. So we had to drive another 3 hours, fortunately in the direction of where we were playing, to stay in Fredonia, I believe. And that was pretty miserable, getting into somewhere at close to 5 in the morning and having to check out a few hours later and still having to pay for the privilege. But yeah, I have an ongoing complaint with booking.com. If any employees are reading this now, I'm on to you.
Actually, oh yeah, that's right, because the deads had to come out. So the gear, for the most part, is inside, but because there isn't too much room in the venue today, all of the cases, deads, anything that doesn't have to be inside came back out. So this is packed with just basically half capacity. So it's just this, but way more as far as what's usually in there.
The packing orchestrator, or conductor, I should say, is Nathan, who plays bass in our band. He just seems to have a real natural talent for it. I mean, yeah, as you can see, we are traveling literally with everything up to here. It's 2 bands worth of equipment, 10 people's worth of luggage and just stuff. So it definitely requires a lot of teamwork to get it done. But Nathan is the master commander at this, and we're very grateful that he does it, because I just wouldn't know where to start.
It's a thankless job, and by the time you get it done right once, it sort of just gets solidified like, oh, that's the packing person. And so, like, all the gear will be out, and it'll be after a show, and we're looking at an empty trailer and a lot full of gear, and we're just like, where's Nathan? We need direction. And really, anyone could do, like, it's every single time it's a little bit improvised, so anyone can always take a swing at it, but because one person did it right once, that becomes essentially their responsibility. Yeah.
So thanks so much for checking out our van while we're on tour. I play in Rolo Tomassi.
I play in Cryptodira.
We released a new record in February this year. It's called Where Myth Becomes Memory. That's available to stream on all major platforms. You can buy it in independent record stores everywhere. It's available on vinyl, CD, there's cassette tapes. We're going to be back in the US hopefully next year, so I hope I'm going to be able to see some of you there. Otherwise, it's been real.
I'm with Cryptodira. We just put a single out called Hyperwealth. That's also streaming on every major streaming service. You can find the video on YouTube as well. We're going to be going on tour actually overseas with Between the Buried and Me next March and April. But as far as where to find us, we're on social media, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, just at Cryptodira Band. I probably shouldn't even spell that out because there's no way it would be retainable. But at Cryptodira Band, you can find us anywhere on social media. And like I said, all of our music's also on pretty much every major streaming service.